Hey there, Petey here, and I wanted to do a quick video today, recommend a documentary that I watched which was called Dream Deceivers. Uh, Dream Deceiver? Anyway, if you're not familiar with the Rageaholic, he is a heavy metal dude that has mirror sunglasses and a black shirt, like an angle shot, and he talks about. He has a channel. It's like a vlog, where he runs his mouth, quote unquote. It's really good stuff. But he also does a series called Metal Mythos, and he doesn't have a real lot, but man, they're really in depth. Uh, the Black Sabbath episode is 2 hours. I've seen a few of them because they're long, but they're really enjoyable. He does a really good job. Very colorful. A lot of foul language. Dream Deceiver. Dream Deceivers with an S. Dream Deceivers. The story behind James Vance versus Judas Priest. It's got a 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, which means nothing. Where's the Rotten Tomato? Anyway, yeah, you'll have to take my word for it. Members of heavy metal band Judas Priest put on trial following the suicide and attempted suicide of the other guys. Two guys, one of them lost his life, the other guy lost his face. And then they reconstructed it. He lived, spoilers, if you don't want to know, fast forward this for a minute. The guy, they reconstructed his face, and that's what you'll see in Dream Deceivers. It's not a pleasant sight. This poor guy, they reconstructed his face, and as you can imagine, it's he. There's one point where they talk about him eating. He has one tooth, so he uses his finger to break the food up over this one tooth and then swallows it somehow. So you could just imagine this poor guy. He made it 3 years and then he died of an overdose. He went into rehabilitation. Anyway, it's a sad story. It's from a crazy time when people got a little bit carried away with music. The guitar turned into this satanic devil worship. Like there was. It all goes back to the early blues thing with Robert Johnson supposedly selling his soul. Now, my theory on Robert Johnson was that he was a pool hustler. He came around and tried to sit in with other blues musicians and pretended that he sucked. All the while he was working on getting unbelievably good. So he pretended that he couldn't really play, and then told people that he had sold his soul to the devil to get these ungodly powers at the guitar. So people believed it because they had never seen anything like it. It's like when you see, a really super talented person playing an instrument that you've never seen that before. You think, "Oh my God, that must be the devil." But in that period of time, not only were the musicians, Led Zeppelin using imagery that they didn't really explain what those symbols meant so much, and through sending out, signals in the movie Song Remains the Same. You have Jimmy Page climbing the mountain, and then the wizard, the tripped out wizard, gives him the realization that the wizard is him. He travels back in time and sees a baby, and that he has attained this knowledge. So, so there was a lot of imagery, and I think the record companies were also encouraging people to use the pentagram, like Motley Crue with the spinning pentagram. Were those guys smart enough to worship the devil? Could they read a book of the dead? I don't know. It's not for me to judge. So yeah, there was this thing with rock and roll that the guitar and all that leather, those guys were evil. And it was tough for me coming up in a religious family and going to a Baptist school where you weren't allowed. You had to sign a contract that you wouldn't do this massive list of things. Play cards, gamble, dance with girls, listen to rock and roll, go to movies, cuss, any alcohol or drug use. All the fun stuff was on this list. So, as a person who, like, I was really into the Beatles and then Pink Floyd. And I also really liked more aggressive sounding rock and roll. The harder rock that was on the radio, I really loved. I'm not talking about the Who, I'm talking about more the AC/DC, that type of stuff. Like, I couldn't get enough. And then later on, when it turned into this thing, Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon, and he's on the cover, biting, like dressed up like a werewolf in the graveyard, and singing about Mr. Crowley, and he's biting heads off the bats, and then it just kind of went nuts and became this thing. And that turned into like real bands, black metal bands that really did. They were trained in, they were practicing some sort of religious stuff that wasn't based on the Bible. So it went from kind of being a pretend thing, and then later on it seemed like there was some real stuff. Who knows? Maybe there was, my theory on it is, if there was any kind of occult stuff going on, it was probably going on, it wasn't so much the bands that were into that so much, as it was maybe like people higher up that were performing rituals, cursing the master tapes, and I don't know. I don't know. I just know that I'm older, so I was alive during that point. I was a young kid, and what I'm trying to get at is that for me was a very tough time. It's a very frustrating time because I loved all that stuff. I enjoyed it. It piqued my curiosity. It was awesome. But at the same time, I wasn't able to, like, wear the uniform. And I couldn't listen to that stuff. I had what you wear at a gun range. And I had disassembled those and put some larger headphone elements in there and packed them back in with extra soundproofing with cotton. And they clamped onto your head real hard, and that way there was no bleed through. You could put these on, I could put them on my leg and turn it all the way up, and I couldn't hear it from that far away. So it was like underground, like I was living a lie. It was like my music was contraband, and if my mom found it, one time she threw a whole box of tapes into the river. She used to throw stuff away. She found a concert t-shirt from Roger Waters' first solo tour and threw that away. And the book, what do they call that? Program from the show, which was really cool. I wish I had that stuff. So for me coming up, and like really my bread and butter was Pink Floyd. That was my band that I lived by. And I looked at them as they had a message, and it was a positive message, even though their music had a lot of melancholy and it dealt with a lot of sorrow and loss. That really, that wasn't the point of that music, but it could also really help you as an outlet, as a channel of that kind of stuff that you go through when you're growing up. But for me, my dad died when I was 15. It was 11 days before my 16th birthday. My father died, and he had melanoma cancer. So it was quick, but it was horrible. It was really, really bad. My brother left. I have a lot of issues with my older brother. He has issues. He's not a very good person. and he had left, gotten in some trouble and joined the Navy, so the family was all kind of discombobulated, and then my dad got sick and died, and it was a horribly painful time. All the while all this is going on, I'm blossoming into this music person who just loves this stuff, especially Pink Floyd. And then what's going on on MTV and in the real rock and roll world is these bands are projecting more and more Satanism through their art. So I'm like, every time I would see a band come out with that stuff, I would just be like, can you guys stop with the pentagrams? Can we just please? Because like, I'm hiding all this stuff, but more and more I can't help but be like honest. I'm not a real good sneak liar guy. So it's more and more, especially now that my dad's out of the picture, I'm not going to get my teeth knocked down my throat if I look at something funny or, you know, show some personality of my own that doesn't fit in with the prescribed, the list of stuff that I signed to go to the Baptist school. So as all of this is transpiring, we have the guys blow their head off listening to the Judas Priest records, the Shotgun. That's this Dream Deceivers thing that I'm recommending. And the documentary is awesome. Definitely check that out. Take a look over at, what's his name again? Metal Mythos guy. The Rageaholic. Definitely check out his channel if you've never been over there. All of those, you can go, if you click on his videos and then look for the playlist section, you can find just those Metal Mythos and dip your feet in that. And then eventually, I would recommend you just subscribe to that guy. He's a good vlogger. But yeah, it was a crazy time for rock and roll. And on the other hand of it, you know, like the mainstream media picking up on the story that there had been these suicides and that they were using backwards messages in the music, and that's why these guys killed themselves. It turned into this other thing that was Frank Zappa and the guy from Twisted Sister spun around. We're not gonna take it. Dee Snider. Actually, if you look into that band, they've got a great story too. But another band that really made me cringe with the makeup and the, you know, like I like some of those bands, but like Quiet Riot, like some of those songs are real catchy too, but I don't know, just kind of made my skin crawl at the same time. When Metallica first came out, when that tape circulated, when it hit Chicago, these guys set up outside my window in the field. I live where the power towers were. They set up outside of there with a boombox and some beer and lit a fire. And I'm trying to sleep, and they're yelling Whiplash and banging their head by this fire all night. I knew these guys, and I'm yelling out the window like, come on, man, you know, fucking go somewhere else, please. So I had a bit of a rough start with that whole, like, bang your head, like, wreck stuff for no reason. A lot of that metal stuff just wasn't that mentality with it. Now, I saw Slayer play live twice. I saw a lot. We saw Metallica on our honeymoon. I've seen a lot of old heavy bands. I've seen Raven, Wasp, all kinds of heavy bands, and I love all that stuff. But like I said, there was this whole thing that happened with in the media where the PMRC was created, and that's when they did the labels, the warning labels on records. And so the other half of that coming up was like the Peters brothers were two of the guys. There was I should look up these names. They were like rock and roll preachers, and they would go around, they would come to your church for a week, and they would do a slideshow and talk about how all these musicians are drug addicts and that the music is satanic. And they did all these books, which were, that was like my bread and butter. I loved reading those books. So just to see what the other side had to say about it, how so many times they got it wrong. made a big deal out of nothing or misinterpreted stuff. So there's so much of the stuff out there with the backmasking and Led Zeppelin. So if you're younger and you don't know about any of that, it's a real neat rabbit hole to go down. So if I run into anything more interesting about this topic, I'll definitely update that. This is something that's always been unbelievably fascinating to me. This kind of battle of good and evil, where we have rock representing this evil. And to me, I feel that music is an unbelievably powerful force. It's magic. It has a way to cross over language barrier and to transmit emotion and all this stuff. So it is a very powerful thing, and that as a musician we kind of have a responsibility of because it does influence people, how we choose to use that. But it kind of goes back to who you are inside of you. So for me, that type of thing has always been a no-brainer, that I'm not going to take this gift that I have and use it for evil. I'm just like what I do now, basic rock instrumentals. If Jesus was sitting in the room with me, I wouldn't not be like, dude, let's jam. I wrote these songs. Would you play with me? Or if he couldn't play, we'll at least listen to it. Check it out. It's awesome. So that's kind of how I deal with that conflict within me, where I was raised that this stuff was wrong. I don't believe that it's wrong. If you're up there screaming and yelling about 666 and slash your wrist, well, that's not good. That's obviously. So it was an interesting time, and again, I would recommend you check out Dream Deceivers documentary. That's on YouTube. And then check out the Rageaholics. So, all right, you guys, rock and roll. Yeah, don't do that. That's I was at a Adrian Belew show once, and there was a huge crowd of people. He had worked into a frenzy, and they were like fucking worshiping him practically in the front, and he was all like really into it and lit up with a smile. And he started looking out. I was in the back row, this small club, and I was up high, and he looked back by me, and I threw him the devil horns. And it pissed him off. He was like, no, like I was mocking him. I did it because it just kind of, you see that, or this whole group of people who are just like lividly in the throes of ecstasy because this guy's playing this instrument, and I did that as a joke, because stepping back from it, I saw it for what it was, and I really threw him off. I felt so bad after that, because it affected him. It totally took him down from where he was, riding that real high adrenaline release. All right, you guys, take care.